Hi there, Jeremy O'Carroll, Director of the Fitzroy Learning Centres here. Thanks for taking the time to find out more about the Fitzroy method. In today's video, what I'd like to do is really discuss why our method is so successful. I want to give you a bit of an idea of how it's put together and why it works so well. Now, the first thing to mention, and perhaps the major reason why our program is so successful everywhere it goes, is because it's truly systematic. It's one of the most systematic and structured reading and writing phonics programs in the entire world, and it's principally that reason why it gets such results. Now, what does that really mean? What does saying it's structured and systematic mean? Well, what it means is that each part of the program fits together with the other parts, and each part of the program builds on the previous part. So if you come to reader, say, 17, our program has 70 readers. Well, imagine you're on reader 17. Well, that is built on the back of the first 16 readers. So you're learning things in the first 16 readers, which actually prepares you for reader 17. And then if you went to reader 18, well, that would be a little bit more difficult than reader 17, and it's built on the back of all the material which has come before it. In other words, readers 1 through to 17. So it's very structured, and even our other materials in the program, our workbooks and our games, etc., they all work coherently together to give you a very structured program that ensures success. And one of the other features of the program is we never make large jumps, and we never introduce too much material at the same time. So what we do is we proceed in tiny little steps. So we take children from the very beginnings, from learning their first letter sounds, and we take them step by little tiny step all the way up to a very high level of reading, writing and grammar fluency. And by not overwhelming students with too much new information at any given moment, they always feel on top of what they're doing, they always feel confident, and they always get good results. And if they feel confident, if they feel that they can read well, if they are getting these good results, then you know what? They tend to enjoy studying. And the moment they enjoy studying, of course, they want to continue to study, and half the battle is already won. Now, why then does it get such good results? Well, if we go back to the origin of the Fitzroy method, you'll get a bit of understanding of how our system's unique, and as I said, why it will get good results. And actually the origin is fairly unusual. Our program was never designed to be marketed. It was never designed to be published for the general public. Rather, it was created specifically for use in a small independent primary school in Fitzroy, Australia, in Fitzroy Community School. And for the first 10 or so years, it never went really much outside Fitzroy Community School. What happened, though, was that the students at that school started to get very good academic results, great literacy skills, and before long, teachers from other schools started to inquire. They started to ask just why students did so well, and it was discovered that it was in many ways a result of the reading program that was used. And when these teachers had a look at it, they could see immediately that it was one which would be hugely successful, that it would be very helpful for students like their own. And so they asked the creators of this reading program to actually publish it so that it could be made available to the general public. Now, of course, the creators of this system, of the Fitzroy method, they weren't publishers, they were educators, so they were initially a little bit reluctant, but over time, after enough teachers and enough people had encouraged them and said that really they need to do this for the benefit of all those struggling students out there in the world, they decided to go ahead and publish the system. But the point was, it was never created for profit. It was created simply to be effective. And because it was created so long ago, over 30 plus years, it's also meant that it's had extensive classroom testing, and over that time the program has developed. The creators have been constantly improving it, so much so that they're now up to the 8th fully revised edition of the readers. So they've been getting feedback, testing what works, testing what isn't so effective, and ultimately coming up with a very tight product which consistently gets great results. Now, apart from the fact that it's very systematic, what other features make it unique? Well, one of the reasons it works so well is that over time we've had the chance to really zero in on the small details of the program and constantly upgrade them, constantly better them. And so what you find is that when you put all these little details together, it actually makes a huge difference to the program. Perhaps any one single little feature might make a huge difference, but when you have lots of little features run together, it makes a big difference. Let me give you just some really basic examples of small features which ultimately put together go to make a big difference. Take the fact that we publish all of our stories as little readers in individual booklets. We could perhaps produce them a little bit more cheaply by publishing the readers in a volume of, say, 10 readers, but psychologically it makes a huge difference to a small 5-year-old or 4-year-old child to actually read an entire reader like a book and get to the end and feel that sense of satisfaction that, yes, they've just read an entire book. And now that's very different to if you're reading a few pages in a larger volume. You get to the end of those few pages, you don't nearly feel the same sense of satisfaction. And look, adults are a bit like that. If we're reading, say, a John Grisham, or any sort of pulp fiction on the plane, and you tend to find that the pages are pretty small, the font big, and so you're reading very quickly and you feel good about your reading ability. You know, maybe in half an hour you've just read 40 pages. You feel very quick and on top of things. Whereas if you're reading from a book which is very big, and has small print, and it takes you a long time to get through it, and after 30 minutes you've only read a few pages, then it tends to get a bit depressing. So our whole program is devised with a sort of a psychological slant. In other words, we really pay attention to the small psychology of details. Other simple little details are things like letter order. What letter order should you teach kids to write with? And you have a lot of theories out there. Some people say you should start with the letter S, and the reason you should start with the letter S is because it's a very common letter. You can form plurals with the letter S, so it's very useful. But unfortunately, the letter S just doesn't work in practice with small children. Perhaps if you were teaching older people to write, the letter S would be a good choice. But if you're teaching small children, then the level of coordination needed to draw the S, the level of fine motor skills needed to do this is generally going to be a bit beyond them, at least initially. So you're far better off actually to start at the easiest point and build your way up to the more difficult letters. And if you look at the letters, well, the simplest letter to write is the letter L, because at least in the lowercase version it's just a straight line down the page. So in our system we start with the L, then we move on to the I because that's the second easiest letter to write, and then we move on to the T because that's the next easiest letter to write. So we start off with the simplest letters and then we build from there to the more advanced ones, and that's actually how our entire program works. We start off with the simplest bit, the children find it doable, they gain confidence, then they move up to something a tiny bit more difficult, and so on and so forth, all the way up to really complex grammar, which they'll be doing towards the end of the program. Another thing to think about in our program is that it's actually entertaining, and we've really done a lot to ensure that the students enjoy working with it. And why is that important? Well, simply because even if you have the perfect reading program, a program pretty well inspired by God, him or herself, if it's not entertaining, if it's only focusing on the syllabus, on the material that needs to be learned, then unfortunately what you're going to find is that students grow disinterested. And as a rule, because they're bored, then they will lose focus, they'll lose concentration, they'll probably start staring at the fly on the roof, mucking about with their friends in the classroom, do anything but pay attention. So, obviously, if you want children to learn effectively, they need to be engaged. They need to enjoy what they're studying, they need to be interested, and they need to be fully focused. So we've created our program not just with the educational component in mind. We haven't just said children need to learn these things. We've said they need to learn these things, and how can we make them enjoyable, entertaining to learn these things. So we've really valued that kind of entertaining or fun element to learning, and as a result, the children will learn much more effectively because they enjoy learning. Part of the reason for our success in this area is just that we have a good range of products in our program. We have great diversity, and what you find is because we have readers, workbooks and games and different CDs with songs on them to help them learn, and computer software with all sorts of games on them and a whole lot of other games which we've invented to help them learn, this means that there's this diversity, which means they're always studying or doing something a little bit new. They don't get stuck on the same thing for too long. There's a constant switching over to a new activity, and this refreshes them. This enables them to keep concentrating. And because all of these different parts are not random, they're all actually fit together very coherently to the overall system, then children can be switching to different activities but constantly making progress. Not surprisingly, over the years, our program then has got tremendous results. And this is results at home, just with parents learning from it, in schools, with tutors, everywhere it's gone, it's got great results. And we've had so many stories of, parents who write into us to tell us that previously their child struggled so badly to read. Their child suffered in class because he was perhaps 2-3 years behind the rest of the group, and yet in as little often as just a few months' time, this child can then, using the Fitzroy method, get back to the rest of the class and often even surpass it and become one of the better readers in the class. Recently, we've also had the benefit of seeing national testing done in Australia, and we found that the school, Fitzroy Community School, in which this program was developed, has consistently got amazing results. And it hasn't just been in the top % of Australian schools, it's been in the top part of the top % of Australian schools. So it's ranked in the top very few Australian schools for reading and writing. And this is something that can be verified because it's part of this national testing. So look, we're certain that our program will work for either your child or your students. And we hope that you found this video interesting. And we recommend that if you did find it interesting and are interested in learning more about the Fitzroy method, that you either wait till the end of this video where you're going to find some more information and a link which is going to take you to the new Fitzroy method online video portal. And once you're there, you're going to be able to see more videos like this on the Fitzroy method, but also just on literacy in general, and also the Fitzroy Learning Centres, which are in many ways the ideal place to study and learn with the Fitzroy method. So follow the link at the end of this video, and if by chance you're already on the Fitzroy method video portal, then simply click around on some of the links up the top of the page and you'll be able to find more videos on interesting topics to do with phonics and learning. So hope you enjoyed this video, hope you enjoy some of the other videos which you're now going to have access to, and I look forward to hearing from you sometime in the future. Thank you.